Hearing impairment means a hearing condition, whether permanent or fluctuating, that adversely affects a child's educational performance. The term includes those children who are hard of hearing or deaf. The deaf community, notice the capital D, has a rich culture and history worth celebrating. American Sign Language, or ASL, is not a direct translation of English, but its own language, with unique characteristics. ASL is one of over 300 sign languages used around the globe. Many members of the deaf community enjoy the advantage of belonging to a like-minded community and believe inclusion can be restrictive. However, not all deaf or hard of hearing people consider themselves a part of this community. Individuals who did not grow up with sign language or with connections to the deaf community face additional communication barriers and may experience an increased sense of isolation. When hearing loss is the result of an accident or disease, it may accompany other disabilities. But when it's hereditary, other disabilities are much less common. Students with hearing loss often struggle in areas of academic achievement, speech ability, and reading comprehension. Deaf or hard of hearing students may struggle to follow directions or follow requests because they may not hear them or understand them, and their behavior may be influenced by feelings of frustration or confusion. Spoken English is very difficult for deaf students to access, and those who are lucky enough to learn ASL learn English as their second language. Imagine how challenging it might be to learn to read a language that not only has different vocabulary, grammar, and syntax, but is also written in an alphabet that represents sounds you can barely hear. While reading Niall DeMarco's memoir called Deaf Utopia, I learned that referring to someone as hearing impaired is not recommended because it's a term that focuses on a person's deficits. Deaf individuals often prefer to be called deaf and are proud of their identity. Individuals who retain some hearing may still prefer the term deaf over hard of hearing. Asking a deaf person to use their voice to speak is insensitive and should be avoided. Also, in 2015, there were approximately 10 million deaf or hard of hearing people in the United States and over 360 million deaf people in the world, which is more than the entire U.S. population. About 90% of deaf children are born to hearing parents and experience language deprivation prior to beginning school. Despite improvements brought about by ADA and IDEA, these individuals often experience limited access to language and education. Evaluation for eligibility and eligibility criteria. The audiogram. If deafness or hearing loss is suspected, a licensed practitioner should perform an audiological assessment to determine the extent of hearing loss. Timing plays an important role on the developmental and educational impact. Interventions and services will be more effective the sooner they are implemented. Definitions are broken down into 3 categories: type of loss, age of onset, and degree of loss. Determining the type of loss. Conductive hearing loss is caused by damage or blockage to the outer or middle ear. If you have ever had an ear infection or a head cold, then you may have experienced temporary conductive hearing loss as well. Sensorineural hearing loss is caused by damage to the inner ear or auditory nerve, also known as nerve deafness. For this type of loss, hearing aids may not be effective, but cochlear implants may be. The age of onset. Prelingual refers to hearing loss that occurs before acquiring spoken language. Postlingual refers to hearing loss that occurs after acquiring spoken language. Degree of loss. Deaf is defined as severe hearing loss with little to no ability to process speech. Hard of hearing is defined as mild to profound hearing loss that adversely affects educational performance. Interpreting the audiogram. Hearing loss is represented on a spectrum. Many deaf individuals are still able to hear sounds at higher decibel levels. Some even enjoy listening to music, but cannot hear sounds below a certain decibel threshold. Did you hear that, train? Assistive technology is defined as any item, piece of equipment, or product system, whether acquired commercially off the shelf, modified, or customized, that is used to increase, maintain, or improve the functional capabilities of children with disabilities. Assistive technology that I would really like to have in my classroom include a decibel meter, because louder classrooms make it more difficult for all students to hear. Also, I already have a class set of dry erase boards, and those can come in handy for a variety of reasons. Students with conductive hearing loss may benefit from using hearing aids in the classroom, while students with sensory neural hearing loss may benefit from a cochlear implant, which is not considered AT, but it has the ability to restore hearing to individuals with severe to profound hearing loss through electrical stimulation of the auditory nerve. However, it is controversial in the deaf community when used as a way to avoid teaching a child ASL. It's also permanent, and many who have had one complain of headaches
or report that sounds come across as being very electronic, which makes sense because they are electronic signals to the brain at this point.
Supports and accommodations you should have in your classroom. Establish an inclusive and welcoming classroom community. Use plenty of visuals, drawings, diagrams, tables, examples, etc. Face the class when speaking. Be expressive, using gestures and nonverbal cues generously. Remember, every eye roll is worth 100 points. Display key points and instructions on the board. Provide copies of notes as needed. Keep unnecessary noises to a minimum. Determine preferential seating for optimal viewing and hearing. A seating arrangement I've heard recommended often is the U-shaped seating arrangement. Turn on closed captioning. Incorporate ASL in the classroom culture. Invite students to learn ASL alongside you. What are the hardest challenges in a classroom to overcome if you are hearing impaired?
I may lack communication skills due to early childhood language deprivation. I may not ask for needed clarifications or repetitions. I may suffer from headaches. I might experience learning difficulties. It's difficult to take notes while listening. Technical difficulties may reduce the effectiveness of AT. Needed accommodations may not be available consistently. I may feel isolated, embarrassed, or inadequate and struggle to make friends. My difficulties may be confused with lack of concentration or inattention. Lighting may make it difficult to see nonverbal and other visual cues.
What's the best way that a teacher can communicate with a student with a hearing impairment?
Ask about communication preferences. Prepare and be willing to communicate in writing, especially important information. Consider lighting. It's better if the light is shining toward you, not from behind you. Face the person, not the interpreter. Gain their attention and establish eye contact before you begin speaking. Don't chew gum or have anything in your mouth while talking. Enunciate and speak clearly, but don't shout because loud sounds are more easily distorted. Minimize background noise and limit speaking to one person at a time. Establish context and avoid sudden changes in topic. Pause between sentences and check frequently for understanding.
Does a school need to have special credentials and staff to support a deaf student?
The obligations of public schools. Deaf or hard of hearing students, parents, and others are entitled to equal access and an equal opportunity to participate in public school services, programs, and activities. Accommodations may include the following: qualified interpreters, real-time captioning, also known as CART, assistive listening devices, auxiliary aid. Unfortunately, despite rights and accommodations legally afforded by ADA and IDEA, many barriers still exist that restrict access to language and education. It's important to be aware of and advocate for these rights. What are some signs and ASL concepts that are best for a teacher to learn?
Hello, I am Michelle Tanner. I am the superintendent of the deaf here at the Utah Schools for the Deaf and the Blind. And we often get questions about the best ways to accommodate our deaf and hard of hearing students in the classrooms throughout the state. So we've produced this video for you to help you understand the best tips and tricks for addressing their needs from the students themselves. So whether you're a new teacher or an experienced teacher working with deaf and hard of hearing students, we hope this refresher will be of benefit to you.
Tip number 1, make a note of the USDB contact information. Utah Schools for the Deaf and the Blind is a resource for any child with hearing loss and their families. Whether they're deaf or hard of hearing, have microtia, no matter where they go to school. Even though their school may be their main provider, USDB has additional resources and exciting opportunities for the students.
Can someone tell me one of the civil liberties that we have?
Freedom of speech.
Freedom of speech, exactly. Cam. Freedom of religion. Alex, was that yours?
For teachers who haven't had hard of hearing students, I feel like they should get to know them well and just like be like, okay, if they're hard of hearing, just help them with like sitting in the front. I really like sitting in the front because it helps me see better and then hear better.
Sabrina says there are several tips teachers can utilize to make learning so much better, from placement in the front row to using the classroom technology, the personal microphones, or FM systems. Amplifying the sound helps hard of hearing students in addition to the rest of the class. It makes things easier on the teacher's vocal cords as well. And when it comes to showing YouTube, films, or videos in the classroom, closed captions are a lifeline for these kids.
When we have to watch a video in class, we always have to make sure there's closed captions, which is always nice for me.
How are things going with your classes?
They're going good.
Liam wears a cochlear implant and hearing aids. He and other students tell us background noise is a major challenge. Anytime a teacher can close a window, ask students to avoid side conversations, or shut the door to the hall, it makes a huge difference to block out noise.
Sometimes when there's a lot of background noises during the classroom, sometimes they restate the questions, or most of the time they just either shut off the unnecessary noises, like in the hallway they just close the door. That's usually most of the times that's happening.
I do only get about 75 to 80%, like I said, about hard of hearing kids. I do manage to write full the blinks of what I missed, and that makes it a little bit easier. But then I also have an ASL interpreter to help me out.
Eliza uses listening and spoken language skills to hear. She also has the ASL interpreter with her in the classroom.
My advice for a teacher who will be having a hard of hearing student in that class for the first time, would just be like, ask what we can do to help them. Straight up, don't be like ignoring them.
Many teachers may not be aware, but often a student can have a problem with their hearing device, or a battery can die. And suddenly, the student is dramatically more deaf. Teachers can really make a difference when that occurs.
When my teachers know that I have a problem with my hearing aids, they will ask the students to be a little bit more quiet or try to solve the problem with something else, making the classroom quiet or trying to help me with the assignment, where maybe one of the teachers will just sit by me and show me how to do the assignment.
A lot of times a student with a hearing loss doesn't want to draw attention to themselves.
because they're already getting kids asking them, why do you have, what's on your ears? Why do you have to wear those, and that kind of thing. And so they just want to make themselves as unnoticeable as possible. So it's important to remember that even with hearing aids and cochlear implants, a student will only get maybe 80 to 90, at most 90% of the information. And it could be even less than that, depending on the sounds that are going on in the classroom, like the heating, air conditioning vents. There could be a playground outside the windows. There could be noise in the hallway. You want to make sure that you have the student's attention. And if they're looking away, or if they kind of have a blank look on their face, you'll know that they're probably not understanding, that they have kind of zoned out at that point. So it's good to maintain eye contact with them, to check, to make sure that they're with you, and occasionally ask them a question, or say, did you understand what page number I told everyone to turn to? Or you can help by writing it on the board, that kind of thing.
These amazing and hardworking students say if you follow these tips and check in on deaf or hard of hearing students on a regular basis, everyone benefits. Your own student may have a new or different tip that could help them in the classroom. In the end, goals are met, learners appreciate their teachers, and the most important mission of all is accomplished. The successful effort lifts students to graduation and beyond.